Each of the smiling friends has key skills that make them a valued member of the funny little smiling crew. However, it's not hard to see the flaws that each of them possess, which begs the question, who's the worst smiling friend? Obviously, each of the smiling friends is incredible at what they do, so I'm gonna have to make some assumptions, unleash my inner Mr. Boss, and figure out which of these fellas is getting fired. Each of the smiling friends has revealed at least one major imperfection across the show's 2 seasons. So it only seems fair that in judging this competition, I do it by determining who is the worst at making people smile, or at least the friend who struggles the most in the process. On to our first candidate. Glep can be a tough nut to crack when it comes to making people smile. Overall, he's had the least screen time, but I'm not going to hold that against him because it's just not fair to the guy. So let's focus on what we do know. The first major role that Glep held was in the Mr. Frog episode, in which he replaced Mr. Frog's role on the Mr. Frog show starring Mr. Frog. Subsequently, the other smiling friends were tasked with the job of making Mr. Frog smile. Not often is a smiling friend directly responsible for causing the sadness in a future client, so this doesn't reflect well on Glep.
Was that man dying at full, Charlie?
I don't know, Pim. I don't know.
At his second job, he retains his loyalty to fellow smiling friend Allan Red through becoming a security guard for the frowning friends. This, on the other hand, I absolutely will hold against him on account of their values being literally opposite from that of the smiling friends.
Gods, seize them!
Allan? Glep?
One of Glep's only other main influences on the smiling friends was via his role in the 2024 presidential election, where he was apparently the last person to vote and the deciding vote towards Mr. Frog in Pennsylvania. This is a strange moment for Glep, because he puts aside all his differences with the man in order to do yet another solid for him after taking his job. But Mr. Frog, at this point, has been shown to clearly be a terrible person even after being given the chance to change. Thus, another blunder for Glep.
We're getting confirmation now that the one single vote was from this guy. We're putting his name, face, address, and social security number on screen for our millions of viewers now.
While I can't say that Glep is the best smiling friend on account of his limited appearances, I also can't say that he's the worst. He's a solid man, and I hope to see him do a little bit more good in future seasons of the show to improve his case. But for now, let's just live with the fact that he survived being a victim of this video. Allan is built different, no matter what way you slice it. He has several smiles under his belt, and has proved himself to be a great friend and employee of Mr. Boss. To get the obvious downsides of Allan out of the way, he did similarly turn to being employed by the frowning friends at his first possible chance, and he did it all in the name of money, which reflects even worse on him than it does on Glep, who doesn't speak English.
They have a better 401k. Sorry.
By the way, I just have to note that it was only Pim that yelled something. I didn't say anything.
Another selfish moment for Allan was when he noped on out of the Brittany the Demon situation when his brothers clearly needed him. And on top of that, he still hasn't explained to us who the heck Dr. Monster is, or why he has a Dr. Monster's appointment with Dr. Monster.
Allan, are you coming?
No, I've got to go to my Dr. Monster's appointment with Dr. Monster.
Who is Dr. Monster?
What is that? I've got to go. Bye.
Allan proved himself to be quite loyal in an Allan adventure, but it's the end of the episode that makes me question his true abilities. When given a gift from Mr. Boss, he immediately states that he doesn't want it, which is something that would honestly break off any friendship that I've ever been a part of. But it's cool, whatever, Allan. You do you.
That's a little version of me, Allan. I want you to have it.
I don't really want this.
Allan has shown us several other downsides, albeit usually in one-off moments, like when he gets mad at Charlie for almost killing Jason, or when he gets pissed at Rotten the Snowman. But since Charlie and Pam aren't clients, I'm not going to hold this against him in terms of determining who's the worst smiling friend. He's just a mediocre friend in general. He tends to do his job quite well, so I'll call him safe for the time being in terms of this competition. So I guess let's just see how the other friends fare. Charlie is another confusing case where I can't often tell if his downfalls make him bad at his job or if he just struggles to read the room like all the time. Which is fair, because honestly it's a hard job being around sad people all the time. The pilot episode very much proves this, but at the same time it's Charlie who wants to back out of the Desmond situation the moment things get hairy.
Look, Pim, I know it's our job to help this guy and everything, but I think this guy's a lost cause. He's obviously made up his mind. Why don't we just cut our losses and get out of here?
There's a big bit of confirmation I have that helps show Charlie is not a great guy, and that is when you consider that he has actually gone to hell. However, he's the only smiling friend to literally have confirmed approval from God. So honestly, I don't know what this tells us. I guess it's ultimately a net zero situation.
Merry Christmas!
A second season presents us with some of Charlie's larger faults, including the moment where he gives up on a Gwimbly in need in favor of his own personal beliefs, and then gives up on another client, James, after suffering only a small nasal injury.
Look, I've literally done every single thing you've asked. I don't know why you're doing this to me, but I am begging you. I am begging you, please. Please, I want you to genuinely smile. Please, just smile.
Dude, I couldn't focus on what you were saying with that thing on your face. I was sick of staring at it.
Charlie really does end on a loss in season 2, since in the Magical Red Jewel episode, he gets into a major fight with Allan over the death of Jason, and dredges up a moment from long ago with Allan where he nommed on Charlie's nose. A real smiling friend would forgive and forget, but not Charlie.
Yeah, well, it happened. What happened?
I don't know.
On a final note, I'll mention his misdirected hatred towards Rotten the Snowman, maybe because he's jealous of him and Pim's relationship. So to say the least, Charlie isn't a great person, but he's done some good things for the company, so if I were Mr. Boss, I wouldn't be firing him just yet. But there is only one more employee to crack down on, so I guess we'll see what happens with this last guy. In terms of lower level employees of Mr. Boss, all that's left to consider is Pim. It's probably easiest for us to say that Pim is the only member of Smiling Friends with a genuine passion for what he does. His positivity is completely independent from his upbringing, and he's always the first to jump on a case. The first time we see him at a genuine loss for what to do with a client is, well, actually in the first episode, when Desmond starts to get just the least bit existential on him. It didn't take much for him to completely shut down, and that's rich for someone who calls himself a smiling friend.
Pip, did you want to show Desmond anything else, or are we good?
At the very least, we can give him the benefit of the doubt and say this was a down day for Pim. If that's the case, then his next blunder would be in only the third episode, where he considers getting with the ex of a client, even imagining a whole life with them, before he comes to the realization that he should do the job that he was supposed to do. So that's not great for Pim.
After this date, I'm sure Shrimpina will realize who she's meant to be with. Meant to be with.
In season 1, Pim also falls victim to Mip, who he quickly grows selfish of after seeing a close relationship develop between him and Charlie. Going full on gremlin mode in the face of hardship, not a great trait for a smiling friend, let me tell you.
I thought you said aliens weren't fantasy, Charlie.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd call it sci-fi / fantasy. Man, I am...
And that's only season 1. I could go on about Pim's misguided actions, and I absolutely will. In the presidential debate episode, he puts his heart and soul into helping President Jimble in his re-election campaign. He should have known Jimble was destined for failure, but even after continuing, he grows extremely stressed by Jimble's faults. It literally tears him apart to see himself fail.
Presidential policy. I can't do this.
That's about all I have for Pim's faults, and they are plentiful, unfortunately. For the aforementioned reasons, I think we might just have the worst smiling friend on our hands. I'm confident with this choice, but even so, I think I'll throw in one bonus character just for the heck of it. It only seems fair. Because any good company is only as good at the people at its helm. I think it's fair to rattle off some of Mr. Boss's worst moments just to see if his downsides at all compare to his employees, and to see if he really deserves to be at the helm of the company. Well, I'd first like to mention that in the face of his company being shut down by a rival, he goes to some friends for help, which is a reasonable thing to do. He personally asked Mr. Peanut, Ronald Reagan, and Warren Buffett to show up in his office, and loses his cool when they offer him genuine advice on how to save it. Is that really what you expect from a smiling friend?
None of you are any help. Just get out now. Bah!
In the same episode, he literally considers offing the same dudes who threatened his company's well-being. In an ideal scenario, I'd expect him to have a calm talk with the frowning friends, but that's clearly not like Mr. Boss. The only dirt I really have left on him comes when he finds love. And of course it's to a literal demon, of course. Not sure what I'd expect, but I don't think this is a classic case of opposites attract. Unfortunately, Mr. Boss just might not be meant for the field, but he's a businessman, so the role of CEO was, I think, meant for him. Mr. Boss genuinely loves and cares for his boys, and I can't say that he's the worst smiling friend because of it. He definitely makes all of his employees better by the day, and he doesn't lose his cool on them for making the same mistakes that he does. What a guy. So with all that being said, Pim will be taking my personal award for the worst smiling friend. So how do you feel about this outcome? Maybe you think Pim is just so lovable and caring, in which case I only kind of agree with you. Because behind his loving facade is a cold-hearted, jealous dude who can't handle what it takes to be a smiling friend. So maybe he'd be better as like a secretary or a janitor for smiling friends, or I don't know. If you have a different choice for the best smiling friend, why not leave a comment below letting me know who it is and why? And if you agreed with my outcome, maybe you want to consider subscribing to see what else we got cooking on Dim Productions. And if you did like this video, I'm sure you'll like this one right here where I determine who is, without a doubt, the best smiling friend. Click it.